Get it again.
There it is.
No, I'm done.
Fine,
This
thank you.
battery, it's charged. So when it's done, we're done.
There you go.
There it is.
There you go. Now you got the work session.
LC.K12.
And all you got on here is a policy flow chart and then with this hand.
Let me do it for you. Yeah. Oh, ads right here. Guys, ready? Let me do it for you.
Yeah, we don't have to do the flags of the work session.
Yeah,
This meeting to order for work session.
we're doing a flag for it now. Not right now. I guess.
With the open session.
And so do we have presenters? Is that what we're doing? Is
Uh-huh.
We have Christine, and would you like to?
Do you want me to start? Or
Or
Shirley, do you want to
maybe
start with your
Ryan?
policy?
Who?
Awesome.
Then you can talk the rest of the time and I'll just fill in what's left.
So,
We may have to separate those.
I know.
Robert, you can sit down here.
You might.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long time coming, but I actually got to go. For first time. Last day, thank you together. They allowed me to go. I really went out and learned a lot. I also have a lot more to learn. But just for, panel, we had kind of here. They were asked questions and they answered, you know, what happens in there. Well, you know, I was waiting for all of this stuff. And one story, I don't even remember, but I heard this. We have a story, Tom, because somebody or got it up and he didn't tell the superintendent.
Wow. SLZO.
So, you know, you're pretty fun. So. Then the next thing was, we talked about. health. And so I'm gonna pass you guys out
So you're gonna have
This
to
is
go
a-
for your password.
flow chart on how we
Mhm.
should be.
So this,
So.
Okay. Hey, mine's upside or sideways here. Oh,
You
so
have a
you
thing
create a
that turns
password.
around.
So this is where you go like this.
We got flow chart.
Which other
And we
kids
talked
name?
about policies. Person named Spencer Lewis did our presentation. He really, it was really awesome. He actually made policies. Things like things that show us how we do it.
So get me back to where you're, so I can put your new password in.
We also talked about onboarding new board members. And everyone was like, we do this, we do that. But no one, you know, everybody's going, we have something. Everybody like, no.
It's easy.
Important. Exactly what you guys need. So when I get that, I'll share it with you all and then. Then we'll actually. Session was on. So I learned a lot on that. I just ordered the Robert rules in brief. Because they said that was what we were doing. So I'll have that next week for all of you.
Oh, that's the one I ordered.
This is a regular one.
I ordered the other one.
If anybody wants this one, you know, one of these, this one you only can have. But
I'll take
next
one of
week-
them.
Next week I'll have the one. So I can just get this order and get it.
I want the Cliff Notes.
So, you know, I did quite a bit of visiting with people. I learn something new every day.
I was gonna call you on that,
So that's it.
or 2 or 3.
So, I gave you guys a printout of everything because I thought it was easier if you wanted to read through it and take notes or things like that. But, so the first conference we went to was the pre-conference and it was the Engage Every Family. It was given to us by a presenter who's a previous superintendent, has worked up through the deputy state offices and things like that. He had great information and he was a good speaker. But a lot of his information, and it was all about engaging families and the correlation between student success and the engagement of families. It really fell to how our teachers are engaging families and how we as a board can try to help them engage, or by our policies, we can help them engage. But the last thing you want to do is put more work on a teacher's shoulders. So really, the one small bit about policy lasted about, I don't know, an hour at the very end of the day and was like super rushed. But I think the goal of it is how does the board look at the decisions we're making to engage the families in the school? Because we know that the parents that are engaged for the event nights and the, you know, football games and things like that, they're already engaged. They're already here. They're already having conversations, positive or otherwise, with staff. We need to catch the ones that aren't checking their email, don't understand, don't know where to find the information. Instead of making them come to us for it, we go to them for it. So how does that work? So, let's see. They talked about building mission, vision, and value systems with end goals, how that aligns with engagement. And then also just a note, and I think we kind of talked about this, but schools that receive any Title I funds are actually required are federally required to have a family engagement policy, which is something they'll need to put in place because we don't have a policy for that right now.
It'll be coming up in our policy revision project.
So there's a couple of things I put on follow up there. Considering, you know, for a board work session, is it something that the board would like to talk through developing mission, vision, and values? We're required to have goals set every year. But I don't know that our board really has statements around our mission, vision, values, our statement of what our big picture is for the district.
There is a project coming up this year that we'll be engaging in where ODE has combined like 6 different reporting components into one big project. And a major part of it is called the SIP, Continuous Improvement Plan. And at that point, we will have to set mission, vision, values, and goals.
Okay.
So that will be coming up also. That will just be a natural part of that project.
Okay, so something to think about. I think one not in this session, but there was like one of the school districts or one of the boards, I think it was Medford. You know, theirs is very simple. It simply is to graduate every student with a plan for the future. It's just very simple. So, and then again, you know, how do we as a board interact with staff and building teachers and staff in the building? So how are we building relationships? Okay.
And I
So-
just say that part is really important. And I just don't think we engage with the teachers enough.
I think what I got from that was not asking them to engage with us, but
Us engaging with them.
how are we offering our time? And I know all
Yeah.
of our time commitments are separate, but you know, when it's their first week back, are we there to be their minions? Can we stop into their room and ask them what they need? Are we, you know, taking that to do that? I don't know that. I think we have the opportunity to do that in the future.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't think we engage enough with them.
Well, and I learned this is a new thing for board members.
Mhm.
Back in the day, board members did board members things and that was it. So this is the new upcoming board process of board being more involved in what the school and the teachers and the staff are doing.
And I think it's important because they want to feel heard too,
Mhm.
good and bad, but good too, you know,
Mhm.
be there,
Yeah.
feel supported. Because they're the ones in the classroom with our kids every day.
I think about it that we're lucky to have two lenses. We have kids who've gone through the school, so there's our experience one. And we have this seat that we are privileged to sit in, which is experience two. But those are two very small lenses that actually understand the operations of the day-to-day out there.
Mhm.
So making decisions that impact operations without having information makes me feel very uncomfortable inside. So
Yes.
those are the things that are significant.
I agree with that.
All right, so for board leadership, that was held by Vincent and it was really, really great. I'm glad we're gonna see him next week. They talked about a couple things and I really highlighted the board operating agreement and pretty heavily I highlighted that. The reason I highlighted that the most is that it's something that our board has, from my knowledge, has never had really an operational agreement. And that touches on, how do you run your meetings? What are the expectations of your board members? How do you interact with each other? What's the board work that can be done, conducting those meetings, time constraints, interactions within the meetings. So if the board wants, I have a couple of districts that have, so Salem Kaiser has a huge board operating agreement, but they're also the second largest district in the state.
Mhm.
But then some of the smaller boards have really just 1 to 2 page board operating agreements. It's not super in-depth. It's not, detailed line by line, but it still gives some guidance on board members, building trust, relationships, responding to the community, things like that. I thought maybe Shirley might be able to reach out to those districts and get that board operating agreement so we can review it. Rather than starting from the bottom and trying to build one, we could take what other districts are using successfully to continue to build off of that, what would fit our district. So,
I agree. Mhm. Give us some examples to work with. Yeah.
Are you willing to allow her to reach out and do that, Tom?
Yes, Shirley is not only my secretary, she's also the board secretary. So if the board would like for her to reach out, absolutely, that's no
Okay,
problem.
just wanted to check in.
But thank you for checking.
so Shirley, I'll get you a couple of districts that talked about that. Okay, you use your resources, and if you hit any walls, let me know, and I have a couple names. Shirley talked about Robert's Rule of Order. She ordered the brief copy for us. The condensed copy of it really talks through the top points that are used, and then why you would use them, how you would use them. So, for example, they talked about if you have somebody that's is doing patron comments and they're screaming and they're yelling and you're trying to get trying to get control of your meeting, talk exactly what you need to say, how you need to do it.
Mhm.
And so it really helps kind of break it down. Fair warning, definitely takes the human side out of a board meeting. It makes it very business. Yeah. But I think because those are common things that every board struggles with, it's good to have a foundation of what the rules are. So making sure everyone's heard, I'm going to skip that because I could talk for a while, but the one thing I thought was probably the biggest time saver in our board meetings was how emotion works. And so that's on page 2. It's closer to the bottom.
Mhm.
Historically, we have done open discussion. So we've actually done discussion before a motion is made. Well, Robert's Rule of Order actually states the motion gets made first, then the second gets placed, and then you open up for discussion. And you do the best practice is to do a 2-time round robin. So I make the motion, Deb seconds that. Linda calls on me first. I made the motion, so I get to speak first. Why do I or don't I support this action? Why will I not vote for this? And being open and transparent so the entire board knows where do I stand and what questions am I feeling like I don't have answered.
Mhm.
And then you seconded, so you're going next. Robert gets to go. Ryan gets to go. Chair goes last. Everybody gets 2 minutes for that for the first round, and then you do it again. And it's, do you have any follow-up? Do you have any follow-up? Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we've had our discussion, now we're gonna call for a vote.
And
it's-
that's on every action item.
that's on, well, except for consent agendas, but yeah. That's on every action item. You restate that, and so it just is very cut and dry and follows it through the process. And although 15 minutes still of discussion, but it's not 30 minutes of discussion, and maybe I don't have anything I even want to, I'm passionate about. So I just thought that was really helpful information. That's probably the one I got the most out of, was that board leadership skills, and Ben still be here next week for that. All right, superintendent evaluation. We don't have to work very hard on this. Because COSA and OSBA actually have templates for us to use. So if the board is okay with that, we can ask Shirley to reach out to OSBA. First, they partner already with COSA. They have an evaluation template for the superintendent, so we don't have to build that evaluation template out at all. Is the board okay with that? Would they be okay with?
I'm okay
Or is
with
that
that.
something-
with it.
Year before, right? That's it, yeah.
I don't know. I think they've done a couple updates. One of the things that one of the things they've done is it's called a targeted feedback survey. So historically, the board has done the survey with the community as well as the staff, and OSBA is saying, that's really hard to keep that anonymous. It's really hard to get really clear examples that are objective and not, somebody is upset. So what OSBA is doing is a targeted survey feedback, and we would actually give them the names from Sean. So we would say, Mr. Gallagher, give us 6 community members you'd like us to talk to. Give us 12 staff members you'd like us to talk to. And then we would send all of that to OSBA. They send out a survey and they actually look at the results first. And they say, okay, this person talked about medical leave. That's not something that can even be part of the superintendent's evaluation. That statement is redacted and it's out. The board can't even see that. They redact all of their names. We can't see any of that information. And they go through really what is a superintendent legally allowed to be evaluated on? Because not all of us are HR gurus. That's not really what we live in.
Right.
So it allows us to keep an evaluation really objective and not get really granular on people's complaints about their leadership. And then they really suggested some quarterly check-ins. So evaluations are done in executive session unless Mr. Gallagher says he wants to have it in open session. And then they suggested scheduling quarterly check-ins as an executive session to say, hey, this was your evaluation that we gave you in June. How are these goals going? How, follow up with us on that.
Does he have a right to change his mind?
And have it in open session?
If he's in, it says I want to have it no open session and we go quarterly on it. And then somewhere along the line, he decides he wants it to be an executive session. Does he have the right to do that?
It's his information that's being shared. So yes, it's still public information. The public can still request that information. But whether the discussion happens in open or not is his choice. And then the one other thing I was hoping that we might get is the board activity calendar. Just make sure we have that updated so that the board knows like what cycle we do things on. So it's just there and we don't have to think through that. And lastly, because you're going to talk about public comment, I'm not going to go into it. You can read my notes if you want to.
Oh, I was gonna do complaint procedures
Oh, okay.
and the finance.
Okay, so
So you can do it real quick.
okay, superintendent search. I'm just gonna be really quick on that one. OSBA has the ability to help us with that. We just have to decide how we want to do it. Do we want to use a consulting? Do we want to use OSBA consulting? Do we want to use a different consultant firm? Do we want to just, approve somebody? We as a board need to decide how we're going to put out for that search. If we're going to put out for that search, what that looks like. I don't think we formally have had that discussion to put a vote in
think we have.
place. But we do need to have that conversation. They would suggest fall is when we should start looking. You close it in winter, and then they would help us screen applicants and also create a confidential panel that you can use staff and community members on for your superintendent. You just need to pick people that you feel confident will keep confidential information confidential. Public comments. It's all there. Hold on, there was a couple best practices. I think the best advice I got, there's two pieces of information that are really helpful in public comments. One, it's important for board members to start getting comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not a personal attack against us. What people have to say is it's not about me or Ryan or Linda or Deb or Robert. It's about their vision of what they're seeing of the school and the impact to their child. So get comfortable sitting in this hot seat, making those uncomfortable decisions and being, speaking your honest and truth and how you feel about that. And then the other one was, and we haven't had this up to date, but let's say we have another hot topic in the state that comes up and there's a ton of people that want to come and speak. Well, we can actually set in our board operating agreement how we will take public comment. We will first hear from students. We will next hear from parents and guardians, families. We will then hear from residents in the community. And then we will hear from staff or whatever that looks like. But we can set and say, whose voice do we want to hear first? Because we're only going to give them so much time. Who do we want to hear from? That's important to us. And that's something we could decide on in a board operating agreement with pieces.
For every single comment like that, I mean, all year.
Yeah, so like
Standard.
if you
Standard.
just use standard. Well, let's say you,
20 total minutes for comments.
yeah. And so let's say you had 30 people show up, you're not gonna get through all of them in 30 minutes. So we're gonna say, no, we're gonna hear from students first. And then we want to hear from families.
Time's out.
And time's
Time's
up.
out.
Oh, actually, there was one other thing. Careful how to say this. Our poker faces are really important as to make people feel comfortable to actually talk to us. And then our opinions don't count. So it's not appropriate to respond. Whether we vehemently disagree, we're never going to make the decision that that person in that chair wants us to make. That's not what we're here for. Patron comments. We're here to hear them, and they can actually say whatever they want to us.
Mhm.
Their First Amendment right.
So they told you that you have going on. If you can't get them, you can, as a board chair, you can get up there and give them the side and ask them. If that doesn't even work, the board chair can say, during this meeting, we need
So that's what I was kind of talking about, that Robert's order. You can actually literally, Linda would bang her gavel and she would say, we are in recess. And we would all actually stand up from our chairs and step back from the tables. The cameras go off, the mics go off. There's no longer a stage for that person to have that. And we can walk out of the room. We can just step away. We're in recess. So I don't imagine we're gonna get that much.
Hopefully not.
Well, not anymore anyway. I think we've had some.
I think it depends what the state does, honestly. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
But
future.
anyways, it's great. It was a really great conference and yeah, I appreciate being able to go. So thank you.
So I went to complaint procedures and pretty much what Sean's trying to do to start with the lower complaint. First of all, they need to find out
He
which
didn't print
policies
this out.
it falls under, because most complaints fall under multiple policies.
Mhm.
And we got a bunch of slides, but I couldn't print them out and I couldn't send them. Have you looked at them, Sean?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so we can access them, but I can't
Hmm.
do anything with them.
Okay.
So I don't know if they can send them
Why don't
or
we, Shirley, if you could find what he's talking about, just send out the link to the board.
it's on CVents, all the slideshows that
Mhm.
everybody had presented,
Mhm.
they're on there. They're on there for like, I don't know, 80 days and then they're gone. So
Right,
I don't know
right.
if they have complete rights to them and we can't do that or not, but so finding out all the policies, or it could be just one policy that it falls under. And then step one, getting the employee involved. So if it was a teacher, then that parent or staff or anybody needs to go to that teacher, complaint with them first. And then it goes up from there to the administrators and the superintendent. And then if they're not happy, they have 5 days to go to the board.
Mhm.
There's a time limit, and if they don't do it within 5 days after they're not happy with the superintendent's response, we don't have to do anything with
Does it, sorry, is it that we don't have to do anything with it, or is it that you've taken time to relax and calm down, now we need you to start back at process A?
Nope,
No, it's just
it's
done.
done.
That
Whatever
completely
the
done.
superintendent has made for a choice, that's what we stick with. So, and that's 5 working business days.
And then working business days, is that to go to the board chair or?
Yes, to write to say I'm not satisfied with the superintendent's
Mhm.
outcome.
And
I'm
then
taking
we
this to
would
the
have
board.
Call a meeting, to discuss it, or to.
Depends on what
Depends on what the.
and timing,
The timing.
because
yeah.
there's a lot of timing on all of this. You got like
Yes.
30 days, the board has 30 days to do their
Yeah.
choice and
Depends sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would certainly guide you through that and make sure we met those timelines.
correct. And then basically for the executive sessions, we call that through the ORSs. And we have to come back into open session to vote on stuff unless it's confidential, minor
Mhm.
stuff or confidential information, health records, that kind of stuff.
Right, student discipline stuff. You
Student
can't,
discipline, anything with, basically anything with a student, you can't
can't.
come back
right,
in
it's
public.
done in executive. It's confidential.
In the past, we have been able to sometimes say there's not going to be an open session after, is that no longer a thing?
They did, in my session, they said that is not a best practice. They
Mm-mm.
said you should always have an open session because you never know what comes out of that executive session that you may need to vote on afterwards, and then you
Mhm.
can't vote.
Yep.
So you should always have an open session, and then we'll just come back into open session and we wrap up the meeting and we're done.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I had to ask
no, you're
because,
fine, yeah.
because
Yeah.
we've been
We
doing
learned-
this
I learned
forever.
that.
you
And
know?
then there are some standards through the board getting legal counsel. You got BBAA, what authorization we have to get legal counsel. It's in a policy. And then school financial was pretty basic with, kind of went over the state funding. So state funding's at 60%, local funding, we get 30, and then federal gets 10. And then you can do local levies and stuff like that for more income. But what I mostly got out of this is he had a chart and he didn't even have his slides on there. But when we went into a recession, it went way low. So we're worried about budget now.
Mhm.
If things start dropping like they say they're gonna, we need to really start figuring out our financials because the state's gonna just pull the money. And then we went over our budget meetings and our community members for the budget meetings. And we're pretty much doing that kosher to the rest of the schools, so.
I did also attend one other thing. It was a rural caucus. So they have they have these caucuses essentially to get more representation at the OSBA board table. So I did put our school down just as, we'd like to hear about it, would like to know about it. I'm not sure if any of you are interested in, actually being a part of that, being considered as having a voice in there, but I know who you can reach out to if you want to. But they're really interested in what makes a rural school. Is it the size of the district? Is it the size of the town? Is it the size of the school? Is it the, what is that?
Location.
Yeah,
is-
yeah.
Yeah. What does make. it
How
work.
does charter fall into that versus not? And so it's really interesting. They're really trying to, I felt like in listening to that, right now, some of the bigger districts make the decisions across the state. And they're really trying to let, some of the minorities, so they have a color caucus for those, any sort of minority. And they're really trying to look at the rural districts too, to say, we don't fit quite into that same Portland scheme. How can we get their voices at the table to be heard? So that was pretty interesting.
I think That's a great idea, actually.
Oh, give them your name.
Thanks.
The one thing I did realize is they're not long enough. We didn't get through near what they were supposed to get through in the time allotted. We got through maybe half. So
But
Lot of
don't you think if you go again next year,
if it's the same kind of follow-up, then yeah, it would be good to have a little bit more time at it. Because if it
sometimes,
was very, especially as a new board member and just not being up
Sometimes
here,
if
being out
you-
there, it's a total different perspective.
sometimes if you go new, the next year you can ask appropriate questions to
New,
move
yep,
it on.
Yep. So,
One of the things I want to share with the board is I did have a poignant conversation with Lori Sattenspiel, who's been a part of the legislative efforts of OSBA for many years. And that's one of the major focuses of any school board in the state of Oregon is legislative interest, particularly in terms of school funding. And she was starting to give us a heads up that right now the legislature has been funding schools at 9.3 billion. And they're looking at flatlining it for the next biennium at 9.3 billion because they think we have all the stimulus money due to COVID. The problem is stimulus money is pocketed in certain areas only, and you can't flex that money. And so there's a lot of expenses the school that has that cannot be attributed to support from the stimulus funds. So she is going to be part of. They have a OSBA fall regional roadshow. They go into different regions of the state and invite board members to come and participate. We'll definitely let you know when that is coming into our region, and it would be great if we had some of you attend with me. And at that particular juncture, that's usually when they get in depth in terms of what the legislatures are looking at in school funding and potential law changes that could affect schools. And they want your input. You know, that's really your time to give them input. And because that's one of the major functions of OSBA is to advocate for school districts throughout the state.
Are we done discussing? Because it is now time to go into open session.
Thank you, you guys.
Yeah,
wish I
thank you.
could have
Thank you,
gone.
guys.
Next time I'll just close the restaurant.
I was gonna say,
and
I'll
I'll go.
close the restaurant.
Sorry, out to lunch for the weekend.
Let's call to order this meeting with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has
Excuse me,
everyone-
Lynn, before we get started, Nathan,
Yeah.
do we have a microphone for the guest speakers? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Do we have a guest speaker right away or?
Not right away. Just want to make sure we're ready.
Okay, so has everyone reviewed the agenda? And
I have. Have you?
can we move to approve the agenda?
Can't find it.
I lost a pile of papers. Is this your pay? Is
In
this
the
mine?
audience here, 'cause they-
That was mine.
There was, I had all.
Right
of them.
here?
Oh, there it is, probably behind things. Yeah. That's that.
Can't see. Hey, put it. Work. Hi.
I just copy it and put it in.
Log in. Do you know you log in? The board books? Yeah, I want you to see I'm helping him
I see it.
You're doing great.
and I'm there.
I see him multitasking though.
I fumbled around in this stuff to figure it out. So it's usually your school email. That's why I got this one, because then I entered it once and I hit remember me.
Go ahead.
Remember me? Here, you want to look at mine?
Oh, okay.
you want us to wait for you?
No.
So do we need to make a motion?
Yeah, we need to move to approve the agenda as written, or if there's any additions to or changes.
I don't have any changes. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Motion is approved. Agenda is approved. So the annual organization resolution, is this an attachment here?
It would be right down.
Nathan, He needs help over here.
Okay, I've actually read this, so, how
He doesn't
do
have a
we present
password to
that
his
without
board
having to
books.
read all of that? Yeah.
You just, they have it, the information, you don't have to read it. And you just take a motion to approve this resolution as presented.
We have a motion to accept this resolution as presented.
I will make a motion to accept the resolution for 2023-01 as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Robert doesn't know.
So. what
Yeah,
do
he's
you want?
looking at.
Yeah.
So you did the resolution, so that's the next one.
Right.
Mhm.
This one right here. So this is what it is. This
I
is
did, we didn't get a
the
full
ORS numbers.
commitment on all the votes because they were,
Okay.
Yeah, no, I said I.
oh, you said aye?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
opposing it.
So it's all approved. So now the next thing is that to elect the officer or new officers for the 2022 2023 school year. So does anybody have someone they'd like to nominate for board chair?
I would like to nominate Christine for board chair.
Yeah, are there any other nominations?
Any other nominations for board chair?
Christina's been nominated as board chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Christine, you are now in charge.
I'd help us all.
Shirley, do
Thank
you
you.
have the swearing statement?
So, should we go ahead and go through the vice chair part and
Yes.
then do the swearing in?
Yes.
So, are there any nominations for vice chair?
So I'd like to nominate Linda to be vice chair.
You can if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have
so
to.
I feel that with Linda as chair and me as vice chair, we really nailed down how to communicate together and how we wanted to make sure that we made sure the board also was communicated with. And I think we still have a long ways to go with that, in my opinion. And I think like board operating agreements, things like that will be very helpful. But I think we had a great balance in communicating and making sure that our concerns were heard and we heard from you guys as necessary and we knew how to escalate. And so I would like to place Linda in the vice chair position.
Are there any additional nominations? Then is there second?
Actually, Christine should be asking those questions.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
I
yeah,
thought that we
that's
should
my
have to
job
be
now.
sworn in first.
So is there a second?
Sorry,
That's
I
okay,
thought
that's okay,
that
that's
it,
okay. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I would have thought she'd been sworn in first too. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Shirley,
Did you find it?
No, I don't
no,
see it in there.
I don't see it.
Read it off mine.
Okay, I'll read it off of yours.
So just, I'd like to make a comment, and that is that I think that Racine and I have come a long ways, and we've really come to an agreement on how to work very fluidly together. And I'm very comfortable with our agreements to be able to share and expand things out to you. So,
Okay, you ready for the swear in?
yep.
All right, go ahead and stand up, raise your right hand. Say I, your name,
I, Linda,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
and the policies of Alcee School District.
CCLC School District.
During my term,
During my term,
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the responsibilities
discharge the responsibilities
of the office
of the office
of the office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Give a round of applause.
There you go, girl. You can't be nervous
I'm
now.
a little nervous now, geez, it's like there's a spotlight. Okay. I think next up, we have our appointment for the members for standing committees, which we have our bond committee. Does anybody have a motion to approve the bond committee members as listed?
I make a motion to approve the bond committee members as listed. Do I need to list them?
They're on the agenda.
There a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You and I.
All
Yes.
right. Motion passes. So for item 4D, we have approved personnel changes in process part of the HR reset project.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just so you know that usually we have personnel, whole litany of personnel changes for the upcoming year. But because we're right in the middle of the HR reset of evaluating who's doing what and job descriptions and the whole bit, you'll be seeing that throughout the year as we progress with that project.
Okay, so we're clear on what we're looking for today. That's just informational.
Just informational
Okay.
for now, yes.
Okay. And then we need to approve a contract for payment for the HR reset project. And
Yeah, that's also part of the HR reset, and you'll be getting contracts as we produce them and for the board to approve.
so we're not approving that today. We're just,
No.
that's again informational.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Are there any questions from the board on the personnel changes or the contracts?
I have one. So there's no information on that. We're just,
Yeah, that's right.
Right, right. For right now, like, if
It's just the memo, right, of what's gonna happen.
you're talking I'm trying to find my way again. here. Hang on.
The HR reset update.
Oh, the personnel changes and the contracts for payment. Yes, those will be coming to you in bits and pieces. We don't have the whole packet ready for you at this point. That's usually what happens, and that's why that placeholder is in here.
yeah, because I read this and it just didn't tell me a whole lot. So this memo.
On the HR reset,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong spot. Are you onto my report?
Nope.
No.
We're
No, so
still
this memo right here. Sean.
Update, HR reset update.
HR reset update, the memo.
5D.
That shouldn't be there. It needs to be
Let me see.
under 6B. So that is coming up, the reset update, and that's when the memo should, we'll address that.
It's right now.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah, sorry, we put it in the
That's
wrong
okay.
spot.
Did you get in there?
Okay,
So-
Oh, that's
Hey.
because the contracts
Oh, you're in the wrong spot.
for payment, part of the HR reset
Yes,
But that memo shouldn't have been there.
right.
Gotcha.
The memo should have been in 6B. Sorry about that.
Okay.
That's the confusing part.
All right, so just to get us back on the same page really quick. For agenda item 5D, approve personnel changes. We are not making an approval or a motion this evening. That is informational.
That is informational. It's coming.
Okay, so and then for 5E, approve contracts for payment. Again, informational, no decision to be made this evening.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But aren't we supposed to decide how they want to have their meetings this year? It's not on here, but usually we do it.
Yes, that is true. We somehow missed that, didn't we?
Part of the resolution, but then I was sitting here looking for it.
It wasn't part of the resolution, was it?
So is that meeting dates and times?
That's meeting dates and times. So yes, usually the board will reconsider that.
So we can discuss as a board when we want to meet and what time works best. And I know that there's been concern in the past about just how long our board meetings were going based on the amount of information we were having to discuss. So I open to discussion, any considerations for changes in dates and time for our board meetings.
Thursdays work great for me. I personally would like to see 6 o'clock instead of 7, just because it might get us out a little earlier. I don't know how that works for everybody else, but
I think that's what everybody was wanting, except for the people that work, that the community getting home, wanting to watch this 7 o'clock, getting families dinner, that kind of thing. I agree, but that was a discussion that I think I had with somebody, is that 7 o'clock gives people time to get home and get going. And
So looking back at the resolution, you actually did already approve second Thursday at 7 PM, but you certainly can go back and amend that if you would like.
it's
It'll
on the
take-
board meeting
And that was
schedule.
on this.
Six
part
It's
of
on
it.
the resolution, the 2023-01,
Item 16.
item 16.
So
Yeah.
say we went to, like we used to do. We did the second and fourth, I believe it was Thursdays. One was informational and one was business. And that's,
Cuts a half.
yeah,
You certainly could, you would be treating that informational one just as a work session.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But it gave you a lot of time to discuss things and think about
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And then come back the next one and motion on it. And it also seemed to make things a lot faster. But if we would have been going through what we're going through, you still would have had late meetings. So,
And actually, the board doesn't have to decide on this tonight. They could, you guys could think about it and bring it back up the next meeting if you'd like. I just don't want you to sit there and feel pressured.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Maybe
I
need time to
personally
think.
would like to think about it because that's another commitment and for another night. Does anyone else like to think about it a bit? And just have
I'm
it.
fine with thinking about, I just personally would like it an hour earlier. It just makes it really hard for me to get up and go to work the next day, being here until 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's exhausting.
Remember Vincent Adams always saying, there's no good decisions after 9 PM.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't hear a motion to make a change to our earlier resolution for the organizational resolution, but we can always discuss that later.
But we
Okay.
can certainly add it to the next board agenda. And
We do
bring
have
it.
a work session next week, with 2 work sessions.
We
next
do.
week.
We could
Mhm.
consider it then and talk about it then some more.
That sounds good.
Absolutely.
Shirley, could you mark that down for our work session next week? As one of our agenda items. Thank you so much. All right, administrative reports. Let's start with comments from the superintendent, Mr. Gallagher.
Okay, I'm trying to find my, district priority projects memo. You're probably gonna get tired of seeing that, but I think it's important that we maintain focus on this. This is really the direction we're heading as a district. And so I'm not going to talk about all this, every single superintendent report. I'm just going to focus on certain things. You know, under board development in terms of policy, we're still waiting to hear from OSBA when they're going to assemble their team and start that project with us. But tonight you do have some personnel policies that were recommended we change immediately per our HR consultant, Chris Parra, who you will meet later on. Because we need to, we're going through and defining a lot of these job positions and trying to classify them. We have to have the right classifications, and the policies we currently have right now are not up to speed. I think we're all working on efficient and effective board meetings. We've already talked about the superintendent evaluation process. I did mention the school continuous improvement plan as a part of the Aligning for Student Success project, and we will have more discussions on this throughout the year. And that's really where the board input on mission, vision, values, you know, things of that nature are going to be really essential for us. Because keep in mind, that sort of stuff is what drives the rest of the district. That's kind of the apex of the triangle. Communications, I'm about ready to hire a PIO. Just didn't get my phone calls done today. But I'll definitely be getting this person involved in immediately. And we want to do weekly bond updates for the community. We want to do featured stories about what's happening in the schools for student success, staff success. A lot of these things. I just submitted a article to the ALSI Voice. Thank you. I always forget the name of it. The ALSI Voice, and just a general hello, how are you doing? And here's what we're working on this year. You know, and so far I've had some really good responses from the people that are involved in putting that next edition together. I'll probably be doing a monthly article, just updating the community about what we're doing, what's going on. Come one, come all. We're excited about this year, those sorts of things. You'll hear a detailed report on the HR Reset project here in just a second. But we are starting the process of restoring staff evaluations. State law requires us that we work collaboratively with our local association, our teachers union, to get this done. It just can't be done, you know, behind closed doors in the superintendent's office. It has to be a collaborative process. So we're just starting to get that going. It's kind of hard because of summertime and people are on vacation, and so we're trying to move as fast as we can. Our HR consultant is working on the faculty handbook right now. We're using the OSBA template as a starting point. And so that'll be in process. We're working on the teacher mentoring program, putting that together. It looks like it's gonna be very successful. We just got to get it rolling. Budget, we still are wanting to restore our cash carryover. We still have that slow bleed, which we're hoping to address through the HR reset. Plus also, I think you saw mentioned in one of the reports that we'll be requiring all of the managers, the mid-level managers like principals and supervisors, to be integrally embedded in Infinite Visions, which is our financial software package, so they can monitor their own budgets. You know, Mr. Clendenin, he needs to be monitoring what's going on in K-12 schools, make sure he doesn't go over budget. You know, and the same thing with Keenan for, you know, the district maintenance program and things of that nature. So we still have a lot of things we need to be training people on to do that, but that's going to be part of our checks and balances. So no longer is it call Bren when you want to buy something, it's submit a requisition and it goes to your immediate supervisor for initial approval. Then it comes to the district office, whether it's either business manager or myself that makes the approval. Then we call Brent and she orders it. So we're really excited about that process. It's really going to help. And by the way, I would like to introduce a new face in the audience tonight, and that is Lorraine Sullivan. She is our new business manager through the ESD. And so Lorraine is we just onboarded her, and she's just starting to get her head wrapped around everything. And it's kind of she's drinking from a fire hose right now, but she's doing a good job, and she hasn't run out the door screaming yet. So that's a good thing. We're really excited about her being here. I've assembled a team for the Oregon Records Management System implementation. That's going to be another heavy lift this year. So far, we have 3 team members of people that are very adept at technology, and the process is about taking our paper records, whether it's student CUME files, special ed files, personnel files, all that sort of stuff, digitizing it through the state. And the state has these digitized data centers that are backed up in multiple locations. And it's neat because when you put the record in, you can determine or classify the record. And state law has what do you call it, Nicole? Purging dates. You know, some records you only have to keep them for a year and then they're purged. Other records you have to keep for 7 years and you purge them. Other records you keep for a lifetime, they're never purged. And so you're able to select that. And so the system automatically purges those at the particular time it's supposed to be. And it's also a great way in case there's a fire. I mean, a lot of our paper records are stored in fireproof file cabinets and safes, but they're only good for so long in a fire, as you know, Ryan. And so this is really a good system. This will also help, particularly when students transfer in and out, when school districts have student CUME files that are electronic, to rather than trying to send the whole stack of papers, you know, and that usually takes a couple of weeks to do, is you just press a button and away it goes. And now this new school district has that student's CUME file. And so that's a really good thing. So that's a big, heavy lift. We're also converting from our student information system we have right now to a program called Synergy. And that's been done, that's coordinated through LBL ESD right now and all the membership districts. And that is also going to be a heavy lift. We're going to have a lot of training for our staff on that this next year. People that have been using Synergy are pretty excited about it. And I think it'll definitely be an improvement, but it's going to be a change. It's going to be a transition for everybody in terms of this new system. We're still working on our textbook adoption. Lori, thank you, Greenfield, thank you, is heading up that project, and she has been working on that all spring. And so we're about ready to pull the trigger in the fall. So we'll definitely be bringing those adoption materials to the board for approval as per what board policy says. State and federal reports, we're just talking about it administratively today. We need to get our support staff all together and look at the lengthy list of state reports and say, okay, who's doing what state report? Because we've had a few that have popped up that everybody pointed their finger at somebody else. I thought you were doing it. We don't want to be skipping state reports. So we're still working on that particular process. We have the charter team has been notified for OSBA to come and help us revisit our current charter. And that is pending. Our facilities with the bond project, you will hear an update later on tonight on that. And then you've already talked in a work session about securing a new superintendent and possibly integrating with OSBA on that project. So I cause attention to this memo. Feel free to always share it because I get a lot of questions about what is the district up to? Well, here you go. This is a lot of what the district is up to. Is there more? Of course there's more. But this is a great document to share and communicate with others. Any questions?
All right. Hearing no questions. Staff survey, no, sorry. HR reset update with Ms. Parra and Mr. Gallagher.
Yes, so Nathan, is Christina Parra there? Hi, Chris, how are you? Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, good. Everyone, this is Christina Parra. She is from COSA, and she is our HR consultant that we have put on a planned, a personal services contract. And she has a long history of being a superintendent and HR director in multiple districts. And she has really been helping a lot in this particular project. So Christina, do you want to say anything to the board?
Just that I am just really committed to working with LC School District. It is something that I've talked with Sean about this and his admin team a little bit yesterday. There's a little bit, and I'm hearing tendrils of it in your meeting tonight as you discuss what comes first and what comes next. There are a lot of pieces of HR work that need to be accomplished. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation where we can't determine the the determinations or the work agreements until we know what everybody does. And so we need to understand what all of the different positions do, how they function, how we can categorize them. And unfortunately, ALSI does not have job descriptions right now for most of its positions. So those also need to be developed and get a thorough understanding of what people do for the district and for students and families. And so we've been starting there and at the same time doing a lot of other pieces around the periphery as well. So as you were working tonight and you were getting your meeting started, I was working on your job descriptions. And then I'll also be plugging in different pieces of potential contracts for you to review and sign off on when we get far enough along. But those are really the pieces that are critical right now, because you're going to have staff coming back here in a month. And so we need to really be able to have all of those pieces in place, but it'll take some time. And so I don't know if you have any questions for Sean or for me, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
So this is where the HR reset memo is in.
Yes, if you look in the previous section on number 5, you'll see the HR reset update memo. And that is talking about, we are still developing an update in terms of how many positions we have cut thus far district-wide, and there'll be more to come because we know we have that slow bleed in our budget. The brick and mortar versus learn at home Oregon financial analysis, we haven't started yet. In fact, I'm not even sure if I've mentioned it to Lorraine yet. That's one of the things we have to get to work on. We will have results of the teacher survey on class size. We'll present that in a few minutes. Also, on number 4, there's an 8-step process that I put together through the advisement of not only Chris, but also our attorney, Nancy Hungerford. That's what we're actually currently working through right now, and that's what Chris talked about. We're also working on classified and certified handbooks. We're also working on those human HR policies, which I talked about, that we'll be looking at first reading tonight. Chris has also been really helping us in terms of contacting other districts that are competition for us regionally, as well as like size districts to do salary comparisons. That is also a big lift because we're not exactly the highest priority for other districts. So I appreciate Christina knocking on their doors, and I've sent a few emails and phone calls myself, just asking for help. We also have an immediate classified salary adjustment we're bringing to the board tonight. The minimum hourly wage increased as of July 1st. And so we have to just make a few adjustments to the bottom end of our classified salary to make sure we're in compliance to start this year. But at some point, we also need to revisit the entire salary schedule for classified after Chris can finishes her salary comparisons with other districts. But what we're looking at right now is we're on the low end with classified. I put a neat quote in there by William Bridges. He's the author of the book I'm taking the admin team through called Managing Transitions. It says, because transition is a process by which people unplug from an old world and plug into a new world, we can say that transition begins with an ending and finishes with a beginning. I want you guys to kind of keep that in mind because we're making a lot of changes. Just think about the change from our student information system to Synergy. There's going to be people that feel a lot of anxiety about that. They might have emotions about it. Maybe they're attached to the old system. They don't want to see it go away. What's this new thing? Is this going to be better? And anything that we deal with change, we're dealing with transitions. So one of the charts they have in the book says ending, losing, letting go moves into neutral zone, which moves into the new beginning. And they say you can't skip the neutral zone. It takes time. So as Chris talks about, this takes time. We're looking at probably 6 months for the HR reset project because we want to go step by step and be very methodical with this. And it's not anything we can just do overnight. So some of the tips as we move through this together is try not to overreact. But I know that's easier said than done because it's very typical it's very normal for humans to react. Oh my goodness, we're getting change here. Acknowledge emotions. It's okay to talk about, hey, I'm not feeling too good about this move, Mr. Gallagher. Let's talk about this. Why are we doing this now? We need to be talking and supporting each other as we move through this. And I am always open to questions and ideas. Maybe I haven't looked at something where I forgot to look at from this angle, or, well, that's a good point. Hadn't thought of that. So don't be afraid to say things, and also understand the why of the change. Why are we changing? Why are we doing this HR reset? So I put a few thoughts here in terms of why are we doing the HR reset? Number one, we need to set clear expectations for all our employees. That was probably the number one comment I got when I first arrived here. Mr. Gallagher, I'm here. I'm happy to be here, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I was hired as this, but I'm over here doing that. Well, that's a problem. That's why we have to go through the HR reset project. We need to reflect those expectations in job descriptions, contracts, and support documentation. That way, people, when they show up to work, they know what they're supposed to be doing. I know I'm in charge of this, and this is where I need to be shining. And here's how I get my resources to do the job that I've been hired to do. We also have to match salary and benefits to the job being conducted. And I always use my arms on this. If the salary is up here and the job that is being conducted is down here, we got a problem. Either you increase the job description to match the salary, or you decrease the salary to match the job. We can't have an unbalanced system there. And that's not being fiscally responsible for the taxpayers, but it's also not being ethically responsible for our employees. We need to be making sure that we're fair in how we compensate and award people for the good work they're doing. So we do have to ensure the district is fiscally responsible, and we know that over 80% of any school district's budget is salary and benefits. And so that's why we have to look in that arena. But at the same time, I want you to know, we're also looking at the other 20%. We're looking at all the contracts. And I know I keep bringing this example up, but Nathan the other day saved us $20,000 as an example, just by going with a different vendor and different carrier for the same type of service, but it's a better deal for us. It's more reliable and it's cheaper. We're looking at everything. We want to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible with this reset project. So that's kind of where we're at this point. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
I think it would still be helpful for the board to know how you'd like us to respond to the public or staff members, not when they have a complaint necessarily. We know how to respond to that, but suggestions from Ms. Parra and yourself on how you'd like us to respond and how you'd like us to direct those questions.
That is a good question. Chris, any thoughts on that as we're just kind of thinking here? Are you-
Oh,
Nathan, is she
she's
muted? Hang on.
Thank you. I actually couldn't hear that. I heard something about complaints, but I couldn't hear everything.
So the question I have is, any advice or feedback you have for how the board should be responding if there are questions or concerns? How would you like us to direct them for their escalations?
Concerns about the HR work that's being accomplished
Yes.
right now in general? I would direct those to Sean. I have not looked at that part of your board policy, but I'm assuming that you have a leveled complaint process in your board policy.
We do know how to, yes, I was thinking concerns or questions that are brought to the board. How do you want us to escalate those? We do have our complaint process that we know how to escalate through.
Like an example, Chris, is I know when you were calling individuals and interviewing them, just simply asking, hey, tell me about your job. What are you doing? The board did receive some frantic phone calls. Oh no,
Oh.
what do I do? And I was able to assure them, yeah, just tell them to talk to Chris. It's all good.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I would suggest that you direct them back to Sean or Superintendent Gallagher. I think that's he has all of the information that folks need to have and can better explain what the process is and why we're doing it. And I mean, I'm happy to assist, but I think that it's probably more appropriate for Superintendent Gallagher to respond to those questions and concerns.
And I would agree. And so Ristine, let me give that some more thought in terms of maybe giving you guys some tips and ideas of what to say and how to say it. And maybe we can work together a little bit on that and then get that out to the board.
Sounds good.
And I think that's a good idea. Ryan?
I got a question. Do we have any base data of where we're at to where we're going so that we know where we're going, where we're at now?
We are still figuring out where we're going.
And okay, so we
That's a
will
big-
get some base data of where we're at and where we're going with this
Yes,
project.
part of that is that list that Lorraine's still working on right now in terms of the positions that we have cut up to this point.
Okay.
Now, what are we going to be cutting and trimming in the future? We're still developing what that's going to look like.
But what you've already done will be in the first part of the data that says this
Yes.
is where we started.
Yeah.
Cut here.
Well,
this
this
is
is,
where
this
we're
will be an update about what we've done thus far.
Okay.
And we didn't feel we had enough. We wanted to make sure the report was accurate before we disseminated it. And so Lorraine's looking at it. Anastasia's put it together this week, and I'm giving them more time to make sure because I don't want to misquote or lead anything that's not true. I want to make sure it's solid. And because we were looking at some of the staffing lists today with Chris, and it can be very confusing, with how it's listed out, and because we have multiple people wearing multiple hats, and we're still sifting through all that. And we're asking ourselves the question, what do we need this particular position to do? And some we need to reinforce, and the list is growing because we have so many heavy lifts that are happening this year. Some may not be growing, and some we may say, we probably need to go a different direction on this particular position. We're still figuring all that out.
And if I could clarify my role a little bit better, is I am not a decision maker in this process at all. My role is really to take what I hear and, for example, in the job descriptions, to categorize that. So what do folks do? How can we best categorize that to make it a much more clean, clear process for people? And to what Superintendent Gallagher spoke about earlier, what are the essential functions of my job? What are the expectations that that people have of me? And that'll be in a job description. The other thing that is the comparisons, for example. I mean, I'm taking those from different places. I'm not the one who will be deciding what people get paid. I mean, that will be up to the team there, the school board, all of that.
Yes.
The other thing that, for example, the classified evaluation, there is no process in place right now. Yet it's something that's pretty essential. I will come up with a couple of examples. I will have the team take a look at it and then decide on how that will actually function and work. Superintendent Gallagher also talked about the teacher evaluation system. That is something that's been in law for quite some time now. And so that just has to get done. And the law is pretty clear about what components need to be included in that. So there's my role will be to help guide this process and move it forward. But I'm not going to be the one making any of these decisions about who gets categorized in what position or anything. It's really one of trying to assist in getting all of the pieces in place that LC needs, and go out and dog other districts if I need examples like Superintendent Gallagher mentioned. It is I sent something out to the state today, Oregon Professional Association, said, hey, I need this. Does anybody have any examples of that I can glean from you and learn from you? And so it's a process, and it will take some time. And we're going to have to be patient because I just want to express to the board that there is a considerable amount of work to be done, but it can't all get done immediately. And that's why we just have to take this process of what is the most essential piece that we take on right now. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, any other questions? on that particular project?
All right, no other questions? Thank you, Ms. Farah, for joining us this evening. Staff survey data with Mr. Gallagher and Ms. Davis.
Hey, Nicole, if you can come up to the table here, let's get you a microphone. Let's see, I think they have it.
We do have them.
Yeah, let me look
Does
here.
anybody else need to see them
Oh, no.
in a different format?
I'm good.
I think they're good. So the board asked for us to survey the teachers. Oh. So last time we met, the board asked me to reach out to the teachers and kind of survey them on class sizes, and we have a number of staff that have aides in their classroom, and so we kind of embedded that in the survey also. So I went to Nicole, I said, help, and Nicole facilitated the survey. She built the survey and then took the data, and you can see the raw data, and then she put it in some charts there that you can kind of see. So Nicole, if you can kind of maybe talk about some observations and aha moments you had with this and kind of take the board through the charts.
So if I can direct you to the bar graph number 1, it's going to show, I didn't title the chart, but it's going to show 3 different bars next to each other under each grade. The first bar, I guess it's like the blue, that is the first question that was asked, like how many students do you have in your class? The second one was, what was your ideal class size with an aide? And then what your ideal class size would be without an aide. And if you can look at what it is currently, what the current number of enrolled students and what it is without an aide is very similar. If you go through all of the grades, and some of the grades, there was no response from the teachers. So the only thing I can give you is what their current class size is. But when they have their ideal class size with an aide, it's actually much bigger. So you can actually have, or the teachers feel more comfortable having more students in their class with another adult or other person there helping them. If you go back up to, or I guess, did I include it in here?
The chart or the numbers?
I did not include it in this. So one of the other charts or one of the other questions was, did you find your aides in your classrooms to be helpful? Most teachers did. They found them somewhat helpful, but it was the somewhat helpful that is a kind of tell. That is a big spot where we could increase their helpfulness. And that's a training opportunity that we can do for our aides. It's been a kind of issue that we've had this last year when we do onboard aides, because we're playing catch up instead of being ahead of the game. We just kind of throw people in the fire and say, sink or swim. Most of them are swimming, but there are some that are kind of just barely floating and treading water. And that's an opportunity that we can grow our people and also make the opportunities for our students even better. Because if you have good, helpful adults in the classroom, your kids are going to be learning more, which is, I mean, for me as a parent, great. I would love for my child to have way more opportunities and a lot better education experience.
So as a result of the survey, is like she's indicating, we have been talking administratively about bringing in some training for our IAs. You know, how to better support the teachers in the classroom. We also need to train the teachers in terms of how to better use an IA in the classroom.
Yes, a lot of the
Yeah.
teachers have a lot of, like, they don't feel that it's their job to direct the aides, when in fact it is, you're their immediate supervisor in that situation. If you need something from them, please direct them. But then the aides also need to know that you need to take that direction from your teachers. You are there to help them, and by helping them help the students. You're an extension of the teacher, in manner of speaking.
I thought it was also important, if you're looking at that bar graph, about the size of the classes.
Mhm.
You know, and we've been priding ourselves in, you know, the low 20s, upper teens. And that seems to be the comfort zone of our staff.
Mhm.
So, you know, that seems to be, because we were talking about the charter. The charter, I think, indicates 23, and that's something we need to revisit when we start the charter revision project. You know, do we want to stay at 23? Do we want to go higher? Do we want to go lower? I mean, what do we want to see in terms of a district? I also know there's a lot of students that are coming in from adjoining districts to our district because they like the small class sizes. They get more personal attention here. And that's a neat attribute that we can be very prideful in. It's also a costly attribute when you talk about class sizes and keeping them down. So there's all different types of things to be juggling with that, but I think it was important to see where the staff feel and what their opinions were. Want to talk about the pie charts?
Yes, so the pie charts are just a different way of representing the information provided. But if you look at what, let's see here. If you look at what it's the numbers are associated with. So you've got your blue is what your ideal class size is, 15 to 18. However, you would think that that would be the teachers would want the smaller class sizes. They're actually tending towards the, mid 20s and, even into the, higher 20s, between that 23 and 26 range, which is bigger than what we're offering right now. So the teachers are actually more comfortable with having more students than we currently have in our classes right now. So we could increase those numbers. And it's just a different way of representing it with the colors, being able to see the comparisons between the two.
Were you able to gain any perspective from the teachers that answered that way on why they felt more comfortable with the larger class size?
It was because they were having that other adult to help watch the children.
Okay.
Or to help facilitate any sort of small group activities, or I guess just helping in the daily, just watching with another supervisor in the room. They did mention, because it wasn't in the survey, but some of the teachers reached out to me and they said that with the aides that were, I guess those highly effective aides, the ones that were meandering through the classroom and going through and asking the kids questions, stuff like that, they felt that their class size could be larger. So there was that correlation between the two, just because it's a lot easier when you have multiple adults with eyes on kids to be able to help them learn.
So my question with the aides, with the school year, the new school year, are you trying to keep the original aides with the original classes, or how is that gonna work?
Well, so far we have an aide in every elementary classroom.
So if they return, are you gonna keep them in the same class so that?
We are
Sure.
currently looking at that right now.
Okay.
Eric has taken a look at that and is wanting to make sure that we're using those valuable aids the best way we can.
That's what I mean. If they keep consistent in the same class, it makes it a lot easier.
Are you talking the same class group of kids or the same classroom?
Same teacher. So if the same teachers with the same aide, it's more efficient than mixing them up all the time and reteaching them.
Right.
It can be. It can, be.
Mhm.
Just depends on the situation.
Well,
But
that's
yes,
true.
he's looking at that right now.
I think it was telling for me in your statement in here where, now I have to find it again. Some of our teachers have expressed that training aides as to what they should be doing or what they're expected to do would be much more helpful. I think that kind of comes down to those job descriptions
Mhm.
of,
Mhm.
well, I guess so that I know, does that come down to the job descriptions that
Mhm.
our aides would have a job descriptions, our teachers would have job
Mhm.
descriptions? They would have some mentoring and coaching on how to
Mhm.
interact. Okay.
Yes, and in like the teacher job description, it would clearly indicate that you are in charge of directing your aides that are assigned to you in the classroom.
Mhm.
So they know that, yeah, they're supposed to be. And the aides in their job description, they're supposed to be supporting the teacher in these particular areas. And yeah, all that will be, and that helps with the clear expectations. Because otherwise, they're kind of sitting there going, okay, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to clean the chalkboard? Am I supposed to run errands? What am I supposed to be doing? Really, we want our aides focused on the kids. We want them helping with the instruction and support, the education support for those kids.
And having those universal expectations. I mean, I know teachers are going to have specific things they want in their classroom, but having a general, this is what you should be doing every time you walk into a classroom, does make it a lot easier for the individuals who are helping aid, so that they know what they're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, instead of walking and going, I don't know what I'm doing today, which causes them to have anxiety, and then it's just a,
Mhm.
downhill
Yep.
from there.
Yep.
Do you have any other questions for me? No?
Thank you for on that.
You are very welcome.
Nice job, Nicole.
Office relocation plan.
Yes,
Calendar.
Ms. Chair, I'm trying to find my handout here. Staff relocation. Okay, here we go. The cabinet, which is Tim France, myself, Eric Clendenin, and Cheryl Doe, we spent a couple of days in a retreat and doing a lot of strategic planning. But one of them was, we know how our real estate is in terms of office space. And so we debated all different types of designs. Shirley put together like 6 or 7 different designs for us to consider. And we sat there and really tried to work out what would be the best, most efficient way to deliver services for our staff and students in the community. So we looked at factors such as privacy to maintain confidentiality. Like where my office is right now is probably not the best. I've got ISS students right outside my door, and sometimes they can overhear some things. That's probably not the best. So we also looked at the functionality of the space. Like for instance, Learn at Home needs space to spread out because they're putting together these technology and instructional packages, and they need to store supplies, and they need workspace and those sorts of things. Just a typical office isn't going to do much for them. So what we are doing is we know we brought in that newly leased modular this year, and we're putting the business department in that modular. So Lorraine will be out there along with Anastasia and Bryn. Bryn has been working out of her home the last year or so, and we're bringing her in because we want her to be an integral part of our team. Sometimes it's hard to do that when you're working out of your home. Learn at Home is going to move into large back office space, formerly known as a storeroom. That's where Shirley is right now, and where that big table is that we've had meetings around and those sorts of things. But it's also a very busy area, and so Learn at Home will be in that particular space. Also, they Learn at Home needed access to the outside door because they're always getting supplies. Just the other day, they got 30 new boxes of supplies as they're trying to get ready for onboarding students. The K-12 principal and the new part-time counselor will be sharing the office next to Learn at Home. That's the next biggest office where the business department has been. And Eric will also be splitting his time between that office and the front office in the elementary, because Tim Pearson is going to be our instructional coach this year. So he'll be in and out. And so Eric will be moving back and forth, and the counselor is not always going to be here. So he's got his laptop, and he doesn't care where he goes. He just wants to make sure that he's with the staff and the kids and is present and visible. We're going to keep our registrar, that's Roxy, in her present office. The new ADVP that'll occupy the office that I'm currently in right now, and that makes no sense when you got the ISS students right outside that door, because that's going to be his job. The annex off the science room will be a flexible office space because we have people coming in like Heather Shunk, who is our new VP and district special programs director. She's going to be here some of the time and sometimes not. You know, Tim France may need a place to plop down, you know, when he's coming in here because he's not always going to be here, as well as others. We have a nurse that'll be coming here part-time that we've secured through a personal services contract. She might need a space. And so that office will be a kind of a flexible space for people to use on an as-needed basis. I already talked about the instructional coach, the family liaison. We're going to be putting that person in the old reception area. Although there's some new ideas that have emerged that we're kind of looking at different things. I think the bottom line is that we need to make sure that as families come in that front door, that they're greeted, they feel welcome, they're being paid attention to, and somebody isn't just sitting behind a closed door as they walk past. And so we're looking at some different ideas and different models with that right now. So, but it's important to have our family liaison be up in front and center so people know, who are you? What kind of services do you provide? How can you support different families in the community? Our new SLP will be in the office room right off the 5th grade classroom. It also has a private entrance. This SLP has been with us part-time already, just through a contracted service. And so she'll be in the same exact spot. And then right behind where I'm sitting, Keenan's already walled this in. He's still working on completing this project, will be our strategic planning room. where we're gonna have a table in there for all of our admin meetings and group meetings. And also Shirley and I will be sharing that space for our office space in there. And that's really gonna help with the confidentiality. Shirley, bless her heart, gets interrupted constantly. And sometimes she just needs a quiet space to really focus and concentrate on the very technical work that she's doing. And so, and then me, you know, I like to be on out and about at least twice a day. So I will always be available and open for people, and I can meet people wherever. And that's kind of what we're planning. I know this is a change. I've already had a few emotions from other people about it, but that's pretty normal, understand. And if something, as we implement this, isn't working, then we'll revisit it and improve it to make sure it is working. But the neat thing is, I really feel now for the office that Nicole is occupying, where Jack used to be, we're remodeling that right now. We're making it much more Wolverine happy, because that's the first time that people really see that section, and that section is really going to be focused around student services, because you'll have Bart and Roxy and Eric and the counselor and then Learn at Home, and that needs to function as a student services section. And with Shirley and I being out here, that'll really help us focus as a district office without all these constant interruptions, although I still want to make sure I'm very available and open to people. Questions?
So, when you talk about the district office here, where the principal and vice principal and student services will be, that means that parents, vendors, all that need to be entering the school through student hallways to get to this location.
Normally they've been coming in the front door at the elementary.
Right, and so if you put 3 doors there, again, and everybody's busy with somebody and those doors are closed, who's helping that person as they walk in?
Well, that's what we have to make sure doesn't happen. And that's that openness that I'm talking about.
I just think I'm kind of committed to that as.
Yeah. I don't want to see 3 closed doors as people walk in. First of all, it's not good for security, you know, and safety. And number 2, that doesn't help us with integrating with our families.
No, and I guess my question to you is, we want that staff to understand how to direct people through the school.
Yes,
And we don't want necessarily other staff milling around up there to direct staff to the
Yes.
school, correct?
we're working on all that right now. Absolutely. Because that's oftentimes the first impression that people see in the school. And if it's an area that's not properly managed, that sends a huge message to people. And we don't want that message.
Any other questions? All right, financial report, Ms. Sullivan.
Ray, you get the hot seat.
Hello.
So you guys got all your budgets, so that was one thing I wanted to make sure you guys got. Okay. So I'm just going to go over the unaudited numbers for the month of June. And we have the first page of a financial report is the revenue. And the second page is expenditures. And then the third page is your appropriations. So on the third page, the over and under budget, you never ever should be a negative in that column, or it's out of budget law. So just looking at
Click on that
the
section.
revenue, when I did this was on 7/6 to get the numbers, and so since then I have noticed in projected through 6/30/2022 revenue that the ESD, I spoke with Sean, he said the ESD is not going to be getting the 25,000. So if you have 51,000 less, it's going to be about 26,000 that we're going to get anticipated in more revenue in this common school fund and some more current property tax. So with that, the expenditures were kind of done as a projection also through 7/6 And since then, we've had a few check runs. But we do know we have a charter school payment going out, which kind of high that's the remaining greenways, for sure. And then the others were projected, but when I was looking at it, we're actually going to be about 100,000 has already come through. So projected expenditures from the 296 are going to be now 245,000, with revenue projected at versus 51,000 is going to be 26,000. And so with that being said, our estimated ending fund balance with unaudited numbers. So there might be some things that go through with the audit, but are 1,189,000. And if you look at it, the less contingency and UEFB is the unappropriated ending fund balance. It's 1,193,000. That estimated ending working budget is about 88 if we take away a little of our expenditures and actually you're taking away a little of your revenue. So it's about 88 versus 12 for your working. That means your revenues you've gained that year minus your expenditures you've had that year. That's what's capturing it. So you're about 88 in the green versus what you can't spend with operating contingency or unappropriated ending fund balance. So, I mean, if you have questions on that, and then on the memo, we have again, I went over the general fund ending fund balance, which is now going to be more of the 1,182,000. And for enrollment, we have brick and mortar split out. June, it's 251 total. And then you have Greenways, Learn at Home, the 2 online programs. I mean, LC online program and Crestwell. And so those are broken out. Do you have any other financial questions?
Well, it almost
like-
looks like we're running on a deficit, not on a,
On it, I just said,
you said it was on the green, but I don't see where it's on the green. I see where it's on a deficit.
on the estimated ending fund balance
Mhm,
on your first page.
Yeah.
Right now, it's the 1.1 million,
mhm.
which is on the report. That includes, that's your 1 million in unappropriated ending fund balance, which you cannot touch this.
Right,
Not
unless
sure.
it's appropriate, unless it's,
You cannot touch it actually in the year. And then the 93,000, which was operating contingency.
mhm,
So of that 1,093,000 you can't use. So you're ending with at least 1,093,000.
Mhm.
So when you look at it, and we're ending with with revenues minus expenditures just gathered in that single year, we're looking at it says 12,000 here, but it's going to be 88,000 because we're
adding to our ending fund balance.
yes. So yeah, you have 1,093,000 that
Right,
you can't touch,
Mhm.
and then about 12,000, which is going to
Right.
be increased because of less expenditures actually going to go through.
Mhm.
And then you're decreased on your revenue because we're not getting any revenue from the ESD last year as anticipated in the budget.
This is typical for this time of year for them looking at what was encumbered last year that we thought we were going to spend, but then we're coming in under what we thought we were going to spend. So that's the addition that she's talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
To the ending fund balance.
Mhm. And then looking at the chart, it shows that we had 263 kids, now we have 251. So we're gonna have less kids.
Towards the end of the year, I was told that some people are like dropping off, and this is as of your, Sean could probably shed some light more on the enrollment.
That's a very typical pattern that you see for brick and mortar enrollment throughout the year. We started at 267 in September. And it looks like we ended the year at 251. And oftentimes you'll get students that will come initially and then they transfer or the families move and then more kids don't come in because it's too late in the year. And so it's typical to see that tail off there. We don't know what's going to actually show up with the whites of their eyes yet in the fall. And we'll have a better idea come mid to late September as to what those numbers look like. And then we can really tell, gee, are we on track with what we're at now? Are we going to be increasing? Are we down? Where are we at in comparison?
Can I ask why we would find that out in mid to late September? Wouldn't we know here in the next month what our enrollment looks like for the start of the year?
What I've typically noticed in all the school districts I've ever worked in is that not everybody comes the first couple of weeks. Sometimes it takes a while for families to get their kids to come to school. And so I typically don't like to see the beginning count until the end of September, because that's usually when your numbers have stabilized.
But you'll let us see the counts, right?
Of course, we can show
Okay.
you day to day if you want.
No, thanks. No, no, I'd just like to see what, when our enrollment period opens, what we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll keep you informed. And we'll also track this as a comparison, so we can see what happened this year and then what's happening next year.
Do you have any other financial questions? I saw in the board packet last month that you were listing, John knows the difference between your brick and mortar and your online. so
Mhm.
that's
Because we
coming
just
up.
really think that with some of the cutbacks that are happening through ESD and the recession and what's going on, right now, it feels like our Learn at Home program is supporting our brick and mortar. Not that we want to take away those funds, but we need to make the brick and mortar a little more self-sufficient. Because what if all of a sudden we don't have 496 kids that learn at home? So what's going to happen with brick and mortar? And so that's one of my issues is we're so top heavy in the brick and mortar. What happens if we lose most of those kids that learn at home? I mean, we're going to be facing some pretty devastating decisions. And I'd like to see how we can do this HR reset sooner than later than leaving our brick and mortar so exposed really for devastation. And so that's my biggest issue is I see the devastation that's going to happen in brick and mortar because we are going to go into a recession. I see it every day.
Yeah. I agree. But I've already started that process of our budget that actually splits it out by enrollment from brick and mortar to Learn at Home.
Thank you,
So
I
we are
appreciate
looking
that.
at the expenditures now.
I appreciate
So,
that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Next, district reports. Those were put out to the public, correct, Shirley? All of our admin district reports.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I read all
Okay.
those.
I just want to make sure the public got to read them too, so we didn't go through them line by line. Does the board have any questions regarding any of the district reports from our admin staff?
Where are the reports located for the community? No, I got
Oh,
those. I have the community. Is there a link?
According to what I read.
Okay.
I'll figure it out next time.
Perfect.
I did see we don't have one from our transportation management services. Is that common? Do
No,
we
we
not
do.
expect to have them for the summer?
No, there's a report in there from Carmen and Rich.
Yeah, Carmen used to.
Am I blind?
No.
I don't have.
Uh-oh, we
One.
didn't get that one in, did we?
Nope, it's not there.
I signed it.
So we have Eric, Tim, Cheryl, Keenan,
and
80.
80.
80.
and
Oops.
80.
We'll have to reattach that.
Because I haven't.
Mr. Gallagher, do you know of any updates from the transportation?
I don't remember what was
transportation
on
management
it.
That we need to talk through.
Yeah, Shirley, why don't you pull it up and then you can just kind of hit the highlights, let them know. I know they're working on annuals right now. I keep teasing Rich as he's not meeting the dress code requirements as he comes in greasy overalls. Uh,
Because the services are all through, right?
Pardon me?
Annual services are through.
Yes, yeah, Rich does all the annuals on the buses and that's what he's working on.
And for Kings Valley. right?
Yes, yeah, and for
Not WLA.
WLA handles their
Their
own.
own, yeah.
And trying to remember what else was in there.
What's that?
No,
No.
we switched it. We switched it. We're doing it now. We also have the Kings Valley contract the board approved tonight. We spent a long time negotiating that, and Carmen and Rich were actively involved in that also. As a result, we're cutting the management position for Kings Valley, and all of their bus mechanic work is going to come here because we have the capacity to manage Kings Valley as well as take care of all the mechanicking for them. And so that's going to be a savings for us. And we ended up with a contract with Kings Valley that I feel that is going to be a win-win financially. But we're going to be monitoring that a little closer this year, and Lorraine's going to help me with a deep dive on that to really figure out, gee, is this working or is it not?
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so her highlight was we have a couple of people coming in as sub drivers and one full-time bus driver who is training in us. Accomplishments, summer work groups are going out from 9 to 4:30 every day, starting the 5th of July. And our summer field trip started on the 6th. We will receive Kings Valley's new bus on the 6th, so we should have it. And Willamette Leadership Academy's new bus will be delivered at the end of July or the 1st of August. And Rich, and this is Jeff from Kings Valley, will be doing annuals on all buses and vans throughout the summer. And her program vision update is that they're looking into grants for electric buses to replace the old buses at the Willamette Leadership Academy. And I will have that.
Any questions? Okay. I know. Okay, bond project update. Mr. Marshall and Mr. Gallagher.
Yeah, Madam Chair. Nathan, if you could bring up Scott Marshall, Andy, and Derek. We should all be on there.
Hi, guys.
Scott and Andy.
Okay, just got Scott and Andy. Hi, Scott. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Awesome.
Sure. Surely I do not see Scott's report or my report in the.
Okay, I don't know.
Me either.
I did put them there.
Do you guys see him? Am I missing?
No, but
So
I
when I
think
read
things
these,
went up and down. I'm
when I read this
seriously.
early or beginning of this week, that report was in there. So the transportation one was in there.
Yep.
Okay.
I
I
never
read 'em.
saw the transportation one on mine,
Huh.
and I didn't see Scott's either.
I didn't
That
see
one
it.
I didn't see, but I did
No.
see the transportation one earlier in the week.
I
Oh,
did
was
too.
upstairs, and I took the stuff.
Huh. Well, what happened?
I don't know, but this is part of my frustration with this is because things come and go.
Yeah,
Well, I'm wondering if they maybe moved to another area.
I'm not finding it. I'm not finding it. So Scott, as we're trying to find some documents here, you want to go ahead and start us off with your report?
Sure, you bet. So we're gonna be addressing, now that we have mutual involvement, with the bond work between the design team and also the CMGC. We're going to be splitting up the report portions. So what I'm going to be talking about is kind of where we're at as far as the permitting, procurement, the design process, those sorts of things. We'll start off with the comprehensive conditional use. It's done and approved. The official letter was sent to the school district earlier this month. One of the things that did come up as a condition of approval was to complete the preschool project that you guys did 2 or 3 years back. There was some planning and things that needed to be done, which includes painting a crosswalk from the new preschool to the adjacent corner and modifying an existing sidewalk for ADA compliance. So I've been working with Gordon over at the county, and we put together a plan, and later this afternoon, we did come up with what needs to happen. And he indicated that they're gonna do a final review on it, and then we'll submit for the county permit, which means that then we can do the work. And it's pretty minimal, but it is work that needs to be done for safety purposes. All the building permits are reviewed and ready for issuance once the crosswalk and sidewalk modification gets addressed. So that's good. The heating and cooling upgrade, we're almost done. The mechanical engineer needs to verify the existing unit. He needs to put basically eyes on it above the library, which feeds the gymnasium, and also the existing ductwork above the stage. He thinks that we'll be able to use it to save bond funds and not have to replace it and get in there and rip out stuff. But he wants to make sure that the gymnasium system functions correctly. There's different air requirements than there were back in the day. And so he's planning on making a site visit out there to look at it next week. As soon as he's done with that portion, we'll put a big bow on it, and then we'll get it over for pricing and permitting. The design activities that we're striving for would be to get that engineering approval of the crosswalk just ASAP. And like I said, we made pretty good headway after I wrote this. So I anticipate that happening immediately so we can get that done. And then we're going to wrap up the HVAC drawings. The highlights, challenges, and solutions from the design side is that CPI indicated that the transformer may be here a month earlier potentially. And originally they said end of December, and now they're saying middle to end of November. So that's good news from that standpoint. And then I have just a brief expenditures column on construction costs and soft costs and total tabulation. Right now, including the student toilet room remodel, all the pits fee, permits, fees, utilities, and engineering, it's about $400,000 that has been spent from bond funds, and then that leaves the remaining bond funds of 3.98 million. And so do you guys have any questions as far as where the processes of those things are?
I thought we were breaking ground already in some of our projects. I don't see anything going on.
Scott, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So the delay has been caused by bidding and getting numbers from all the subcontractors. There's a subcontractor, I don't want to say shortage, but everybody's really busy. I will let Andy speak to that because he's been the one that's in charge of getting the project out to bid and solicitation of getting bids and putting those numbers together.
Thanks, Scott. You're correct. We have started Friday with removal of the asphalt in there behind the building where, as we call it, phase 1 and phase 2 will be constructed, the energy upgrade in the hallway. Stripping of the asphalt comes out. They pulled, our excavation contractor was able to pull a couple of bodies from other projects and scramble them over there to get that started. They finished it up today. They will be back in the next week or two as soon as they can break more crew free from other projects or complete other projects to come in and get started on excavation for both the hallway and hopefully we move on from there to the VOC building. As Scott has mentioned, our buyout, as we call it, securing subcontracts, bidders, is horrendous. The market is not friendly. Everybody is overloaded. They don't have capacity. They're just unavailable. We just don't have the bodies available to come get this stuff done. So we continue to reach out to individual contractors, to builders exchanges, anybody we know who might be able to help us out with this to come engage and work with us. So it's a painful process. It's nothing that we have experienced previous. You know, this is a result of a number of different factors, including COVID and its impacts on our construction industry. And as we continue to move forward inch by inch, foot by foot, we will continue to pick up speed and buy the rest of these packages out and get subcontractors on board, and we'll get up and running and get it done.
Let me add a little bit to what these gentlemen are saying, because I think all of us are frustrated with the speed of the bond project right now. We're having delays on multiple avenues. One is the permits. Even despite my visiting with the director of Benton County for the permitting process and his assurances, there's other processes that have popped up through Public Works that we still need to complete with the preschool in terms of meeting ADA requirements that Scott Marshall has been working with the Public Works head right now. And just tonight, I think we've got, they're going to be issuing a permit for us to finish that. There's some painting for us, crosswalk we have to do. There's also some grinding of the sidewalks. There's not a lip there. There's some pads we have to put down according to ADA requirements. And once we complete that, then Public Works will release the permit that the county planning department has already prepared for us, so we can actually work on building our bond project. So we did not foresee that coming up, but it did pop up, and we're dealing with this as fast as we can. The other delays that Andy is talking about is the ultimate frustration in terms of a great example, Andy, and correct me if I'm wrong, most recently you contacted 5 different subcontractors of a certain element, insulation, or I can't remember what it was.
Well, it's mechanical. It's the heating and air conditioning, and those are 5 people that we targeted after we went out to 5 different builders exchanges that all have multiple vendors in that same category.
And of those 5, 3 said no because they're already overqualified. They have too many other projects going on. One said, I'm going to think about it. And one, it looks like hopefully we'll be putting a bid in.
One is working on numbers for us right now. We're hoping to have a cost in tomorrow.
Good, excellent.
I'm
So I
going
think
to
you can
keep my
see how
fingers crossed.
slow- I think you can see how slow this process has been. Usually you're able to attract multiple bidders. And so you have a little bit of a bidding war there, but we're lucky to get one to bid on certain parts of this project. Now, all this interpolates into the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price. We need, as a district, solid numbers, not just estimates. All the numbers you guys have seen thus far are pretty much estimates, except for the restrooms that were remodeled. We know what that came in at. That's a solid number. That project is done. But in terms of the guaranteed maximum price that the contractors can't go over, that they're guaranteeing that to us. And how does that match with the available funds that we have for this bond project? We don't know yet until we finish getting these subcontractors on board and they get their estimates to CD Construction, so they can issue the guaranteed maximum price. So I'm going to prepare the board right now, as things have been happening with like inflation. The CPI was up over 9% in this region. Most recently it was calculated. We're seeing huge inflation in terms of materials costs, fuel costs, the whole bit. We may not have enough money to do even the list that we've cut down to where we at. We may have to make some more decisions, but we won't know until we get that GMP secured, so we know exactly where we sit. We can't be going out and saying, okay, we're going to build this vocational center, and halfway through the project, we run out of money, so we can't put a roof on it. All we have is some cement poured and some walls maybe. You know, we can't do that. We have to make sure that we have a guaranteed price that we know will fit in our budget when we made those types of decisions. So I know I'm frustrated with it. I know Andy's frustrated, Scott is frustrated, Keenan's frustrated. I know Tim France is frustrated, but we all just have to be patient and continue to work the problem. One of the other issues that Andy and Scott are reporting to us is, and I'm sorry to have to mention this, but it is a factor, is the press has not been kind to LC in the last 6-8 months. And as a result, there are subcontractors that are saying, we don't want to do business with LC. And so we're trying to turn that around. Andy just sent me today some contacts of people I need to reach out to. I want to reintroduce myself, say, hey, it's a great place to be. You know, we want to be working in partnership with you guys. Let's change that mindset. So we're going to try and make some efforts on that. I even told the guys I'll jump in my truck and travel wherever we need to travel to meet these guys, slap some backs and shake some hands if I have to, and tell them what a great place this is. The other constriction that they're hearing from the subcontractors is simply our location. You know, we are a remote location, and that means where their crews stay. You know, we got a lovely restaurant up the road, but do we have a big enough hotel to house crews here? No, they have to come from other areas and drive. How does that work oftentimes? So, you know, there's challenges with being rural and remote that I think the subcontractors are looking at also. Andy, Scott, am I being accurate in what I'm saying here?
You are. And it's, you know, 5 years ago, we had more work available than we had people to do it. I mean, I'm sorry. Well, anyways, we had a much different market, and you would get multiple bidders on every category that we're looking for. And by way of what's occurred in the past 2 years, we don't have that anymore. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the material backlog, the supply chain. We don't have inventory where people are looking for a home to sell their product. They've depleted the backlog. They are buying out projects. They're looking for where they can make the best profit possible. A higher dollar volume allows them to make more money. And the projects that we're putting out are fairly small in dollar volume, and it doesn't allow for subcontractors to make as high a profit if they're going to carry a percentage, a profit percentage on a given project. If you're looking at $100,000 as you would see in Allsea versus maybe $1 million or $2 million somewhere else, they're going to put their money where they can make more money. And that's basically what we're up against. Scott, Sean, you've alluded to, just being remote. Where do you put the guys up? There's no local hotel. Some of the guys may come and camp out. Depends on how long they're going to be in town. More than likely, they're going to be staying in Corvallis if they're from anywhere outside the immediate area. So we're just up against a rock and a hard spot, and we're trying to find those folks that we can bring in who are going to come in and perform and get the job done and do it as quickly as possible so that we can try to get it done in a timely manner, and also try to keep an eye on our budget, because we can't afford to just let the money go. We've got to be prudent with public funds. So
So another, that's exactly right. And another thing I'll add is that typically a bidding duration for projects of this size are like 2 weeks. So you would put the plans out and you would invite bidders to bid on the subcontractors or the subcontractors to bid. And that's long enough. And within that 2 week span of bidding, that's when you would typically get 2 or 3 bids per section, like a bid from a painter and a bid from a mechanical guy. So when we proposed the schedule or said, hey, we're going to be starting at this time, we assumed that that would be the norm because that's how it has been, and it's not. So that's why a lot of this extension at this point is occurring. So
sorry.
I'm just saying I'm extremely frustrated about it myself. It's one of those things that that's never happened and you don't have control over it. And so we're trying to ebb and flow to get our numbers in. I mean, that's what CB's doing.
So I have a couple questions. In regards to permitting, you discussed some unexpected decisions based off the county due to not giving us our permits. What assessment have you done at this point to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Where are you looking at and working with and building the relationships to make sure that the permitting is not held up for old projects like this?
Right. So I am in constant contact with Toby, who's the floodplain person and kind of oversees the review of the permitting, and we have communication back and forth. Initially, in our meeting, I was aware that there was some outstanding things that needed to happen with this preschool. And I did ask the county if they indicated, then said, look, you need to finish this stuff up during the bond process. And I said, yes, we are aware of that. We will do that. And I asked him specifically, hey, are you going to hold this over our head when we go get our permits? And they said, no, as long as it gets completed during the process. And then we get this letter that says they have to be done prior. And so I
do understand that, but hearing from everybody today that this was held up in the last month, but then also hearing that you knew about it before is slightly frustrating. That speaks to, making sure that we're all on the same page. So I guess my question is, are you going to continue to work with Public Works to make sure that we have things completed so that future issues don't surprise us?
Oh, absolutely. And I share your frustration also, because, when you're led to believe one thing and then it changes on you. I did, doing that work and putting those drawings together and coordinating this was not in the bond scope for what our work is. I am doing it for you guys so that we can get this thing done, because reaching out to a civil engineer to do this would even add more time. So I'm really trying to facilitate and get this thing done for you.
And then I think my next question, I understand that we're rural and that has complications that the urban areas don't have. However, that's not really a surprise in this project and probably should have been a risk that we built into it. Given that information, have you worked with other companies to get some insight? To say, how are you doing this in rural areas? This is not the first rural bond you have done, Scott. Also, we do have, a company right here in Corvallis that does these, right here in Alsea that does these on a regular basis. That is their job. Have you had those conversations using your networking to alleviate some of these roadblocks?
So the remoteness of a project has never been a huge issue on past projects that I've done. With the exception of Dayville, and they're way out there. so I guess to answer your question, I've never experienced it to this level. And when we initially started, Corvallis is a pretty good sized town and it's only about half an hour away. So, you know, when I do work in Burns, or for instance, which is way, way, way out, and the closest town is Bend, it's never really been an issue at that point either. So I am actually at a bit of a loss.
So I guess that leads to that next question of how will you overcome that? And who will you, like, who do you network with locally to make sure that that barrier is cleared away?
So the bidding barrier and getting subcontractors and stuff aligned is what CB Construction is working on.
Okay.
The relationships that you're talking about as far as reaching out to subcontractors and those sorts of things, you can kind of look at it this way. I don't hire them to do things for me, but CB does. And so that network, as far as reaching out to certain subcontractors, is not in my wheelhouse. That's something that is an activity that I wanted to, that is CB's responsibility.
Yep. Fully agreed, Scott. And, you know, again, we reached out to local, typically, you reach out to the local builders exchanges because they have a networked community of contractors who provide all of the range of work that you need. You place your project documents in, you do your bid instructions, your scopes of work, what you're expecting, and you receive multiple bids on each of those trade packages. Every scope of work that you're looking for, you always get coverage. And in this case, we advertised, we got nothing. We re-advertised, we got very little. We got maybe, I think, 4 or 5 responses on bid package 2, maybe 6 or 7 on bid package 3. Several of those were from the same subcontractor, where normally you would see at least 2 to 3 per trade package. And we have 10 or 12 trade packages out there. You make follow-up phone calls on people who have looked at the plans. They've actually opened them up and they've looked at them. And is there something about this project that just turned you off, that was not appealing? And it was always, it's too far, it's too small. And then lately we've heard something about the previous political climate that Sean mentioned earlier. But there's nothing wrong with the project. It's just that they're looking for something bigger, something that's more, I'm going to call it more appetizing. And so we can, like I said, we continue to turn over rocks and look for those people who are willing to say, yes, we will come, we'll get you a number, we can commit some staff and some labor, and we can come out and get it done. And if we can't find those people, there's several portions of the scope of work that we could self-perform, but we'd like to do that as a last resort. We'd much rather have a subcontractor involved in it. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're striving to provide.
Other questions?
I'm ready to move on. I'm too frustrated with this one.
Thank you for the report this evening, gentlemen.
Sure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next up is patron comments. Do we have any patron comments this evening? All right. Then we'll move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda holds the approval of minutes for both June 9th and our special board meeting on May 17th, as well as the approval of bills. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Or would you like to have discussion about any of these items?
You're talking about our board meeting minutes, correct?
Yeah, so sorry, item 8, holding 8.1 and 8.2.
I'd like to make a motion to approve our minutes, June 9th, and it looks like May 17th as well.
Mhm.
A second.
So the consent agenda has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on to action items. We're actually gonna take a 3-minute break to make room for those patron comments. No, we don't. I was giving
Kim.
3 minutes.
Yeah, you need to take a break.
Stuttering was, comes with the first meeting.
All right, we are back in session at 8:51.
All right.
All right, we're gonna move on to action items, starting with our Paradigm Learning Systems contract renewal. Historically, we've done discussion first, so are there any questions on the Paradigm Learning Systems contract renewal? All right, do we have a
So-
motion? Oh,
Want to make sure that you understand that we ran this past our attorneys. This is our key foundational curriculum for the Learn at Home program. We've had to renegotiate it based on what our legal counsel responded, and we're good.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Paradigm Learning System contract renewal.
A second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Yes.
I did say
Sorry.
it.
He did. Oh, sorry. I'll sit
Motion
back.
passes. Sorry, I'm gonna have to make eye contact. Next up, we have our Kings Valley Transportation Contract Approval.
I heard that's a win-win situation, so I'll make a motion to approve the Kings Valley Transportation Contract.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion that anyone would like to have? There's a motion and there's a second. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the Kings Valley Transportation Agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Summer Academic Grant K through 6 approval. Any information, Mr. Gallagher, that you'd like to give us on that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is just our grant that we're receiving to support our summer program. Tim France has been heading that up for us, and we've been conducting educational field trips for our students. Tim's a once a week, twice a week?
Multiple, then it's by different age groups, so like K1, 2, then a 3 through 5, and 6. Day, one for a week.
Is there a motion to for the summer grant K through 8?
Do you want me to just keep going? I'm happy to.
Sure.
So I will make a motion to approve the summer academic grant K through 6.
A second.
Actually, it is K through 8. It's just listed as K through 6.
K through
erroneously.
8,
It should be
my
K
correction.
through 8.
All right, so there's a motion to approve the summer academic grant K through 8. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The library. Sorry, I have to look at this one. The library memorandum of understanding between Benton County and LC.
Yes, Madam Chair, I've met a couple of times with Ashley Chavez, who's the library director for Benton County, about providing library services to our school district. And I want you to know that it doesn't mean we're abandoning our own library. This is in addition to. So this gives staff and students immediate access to a lot more information that is available throughout the Benton County library system, especially through interlibrary loans. They have a book box program that they have implemented throughout the county already, and want to do the same thing in LC, to where they go to the teaching staff mainly on a weekly basis, say, what do you got coming up in your class? What kind of materials could you need? And they put together a book box for them, and they bring it in just as additional resources that the teachers could use for the students or in their presentations or things of that nature. So I'm really excited about this, and the library said, wow, we really don't need an MOU, but I thought, I think it's important that we bring this to the board, because I would like your endorsement and support on this. Also, an update with our library here. I'm having is it Mary. She is actually sorting through a lot of the books this summer and helping us call out the old books that just have not been used, and some of them haven't been checked out since the 80s. And so we know what we currently have. And so we need to put together, continuing order of new books, new materials, new supplies, things of that nature. So again, we're not abandoning what we have. We're just adding to, we're augmenting. And especially with the county library being right next door, I really look forward to this opportunity. I think it's really cool.
Is there a motion or discussion?
I have a discussion, just a little tiny one. I have to do it. We've had so much trouble with the county when it takes over or gets involved in things. I am glad that there's an out in here that either one of the parties can back out of this at any time.
Absolutely.
And I would really like to see us lean on, if this starts to go south, to back out, because there's just, we've had trouble with every entity that the county has come into here and touched the school. And I just as soon have the out and be sure we have the out.
And yeah, in any kind of MOU, we certainly want an out clause or even a contract. There always has to be an out clause. I've asked the director of the library system, Ashley, to come and give some regular updates to the board. And she's very anxious to do that. So you will see her. And she's fairly new, been in that position for just a couple of years. She is young and she has a lot of energy. So I'm actually anxious for you guys to meet her because I think she's going to run a tight ship. And she speaks very highly of the LC library system here.
I
So
would,
is there a fee for this? or-
Nope. Nope, no cost.
No.
I would like to hear, in addition to Ashley, I would like to hear from our teachers on how this implementation has helped in their classrooms
Sure.
and what we've seen with student outcomes, or
Sure.
even just involvement with that process. That
Sure.
would be great.
Why don't we bring something back maybe November, December, giving you
Yeah,
a few months
that's-
to get going and implement, because it's going to be a new learning curve for the teachers too. You know?
Absolutely.
You don't realize that we've done this before.
No, I don't.
We have been doing this. Kathy and Mary Jackson
Yeah,
used to come with the boxes every week.
okay.
So I just want to let you know that.
Well, how did it work, Shirley? Was it functional really good?
I think, well, yeah, it depends on the teacher too, some teachers ran out, and others, they weren't as interested, they have their own, they either bring the pick up here or they have their own. I didn't hear anybody complain.
I think I read in here that there would be interaction as well with some of the activities that they have at the library.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because oftentimes they bring in special speakers or presentations, and yeah, we want to have a full integration there that can benefit all.
Okay, so I'm hearing a need for a revisit on implementation and success of the implementation in November.
Yeah.
From our teachers to hear.
I would also like to have an input from the library to see how our teachers are reacting with them, because it's a two-way street.
I think, yes, because
Yeah.
Ashley wants to come speak.
Yeah,
with us too,
Ashley's going
so-
to come and give us some updates.
But sooner after, after school started.
I can have her come in August if you want, or wait till after school starts.
I'm
What
really
would you like to see?
interested. I'm interested. I don't know what Christine's interested in, anybody else, but I'm interested in seeing how they feel about the interaction between them and the teachers and how that's going, how the kids are interacting, both opinions.
Okay, can that be handled in our November update, or
I
you
think-
want something sooner?
I think
I
November.
think November's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
All right, so discussion. We have a motion, we have a second, we have discussion that's occurred. All in favor of the motion to approve the library MOU?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next up is adjoining land, possible purchase and lease agreement. Mr. Gallagher, would you give us an
Yep.
overview, please?
Madam Chair, I had a phone call from Mimi Stout, who owns the land just east of the school district. She is interested in exploring either a purchase and or a lease agreement with the school district. She currently owns 80 acres adjoining the school district. I'm just bringing it directly to the board to say to see whether or not you want me to explore options Doesn't mean we're committing to anything. I just didn't want to spend time on this if this was not of interest to the board. But
We had already done that.
well, apparently it was looked at before, and I don't know who dropped which side. I was told that Mimi got not interested or something, but I don't have the history.
Well, the history was they came back and said they wanted 1.5 million and we said no, because that's not why that was appraised.
Okay.
I think the question to the board today is, are we interested in having Mr. Gallagher even continue or recontinue conversations regarding this property? I'm gonna do this differently so we all get a chance to speak. Robert, do you have anything you want to discuss on this?
I would love to have it, but I don't think right now that we're in a spot where we can do it. Let's,
Who's next? Deb?
I think if the price was right, I think it would be beneficial to our school and the programs that we could do. And I think that's what it would come down to me, for me.
Okay.
I think that we've already had a lot of negotiations and a whole lot of people got involved in those conversations. And so probably it would be a good thing to just see where we're at with it and what they're thinking and what she's thinking. And if it doesn't look like we can afford it, or it can something that we can go forward with. And I think we need to revisit how we would utilize that property, because there was a lot of ideas thrown out that probably are not even close to effective right now. So, yeah, I think it would be a good thing to revisit it on a minor basis, just to see, to put the foot in the door and see what's going on.
Okay. Ryan? You don't have to.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to be in place to buy property like that. Financially, with the community, we can't get a bond project going. We're going to take another bond project just to put facilities over there. I don't think it's worth it.
My opinion is that this is not something I'd like to see Mr. Gallagher's time go into at this time. I think that it's more important to focus on the culture in the school and getting this school in a shape that it can continue without constant oversight. I'd rather the time that we spend, the money we spend on Mr. Gallagher, to really be focused on the inner workings of this school, not looking at how we can use the joint land. That's my opinion. Is any other discussion want to take place?
I would just like to say, I'd like to see what Mimi would like to, what she has to say. Just my opinion.
I agree with that, and solely because in the past, we've taken the stance of this isn't what we need to do, and we don't have the money to do it now. And we said, nope, we're done. And then almost immediately we crashed into having not enough office space and having to rent a facility that was way smaller than I ever thought it was going to be, and going through a huge rearrange. So I'm just saying that I'd rather hear a little bit about it and not just jump to no.
Okay.
And I understand where you're at, Christine, and I would like to have him not spend as much time as we spent on it the last time, but a conversation, a very short conversation with it, maybe to give him a little bit of idea of what's going on.
I could have a short conversation to see where she's at with things, or the board can appoint one of you as the person to reach out to her also, if you prefer. It's up to you guys.
I'm gonna go back to the motion of whether that's how we want to spend the time. So, because that is really what we're looking at, is, you know, authorizing that time for discussion. So
there is a motion on the floor. Is
there's
that
not a
what you're
motion.
saying?
There's not a motion at this time. Does the board have a motion?
Well, I don't know how everybody feels, but I would like to hear what Mimi has to say. Does it mean we have to go anywhere with it? It could be a very short conversation. So I will make a motion just for Mr. Gallagher to have a very short conversation, not waste a lot of time on it, just to see what she's proposing.
There's a motion.
There's something.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Nay.
Well, that's-
So the motion passes 3-2.
Okay, I will have a short conversation with her, see what you think.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
You possibly present that at the next board meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a presence learning contract up for approval today. Does the board need an overview or
Yeah.
discussion on this one? I think so.
I'm recommending approval of this annual presence learning contract. This is where we get our contracted speech, occupational therapy, and behavioral health services for the district's Learn at Home Oregon program. We've been contracting with Presence Learning before. We're meeting our needs. And Tim, you got anything to add to that?
And our building actually also uses personal speech services. as well.
Oh, they do? Okay.
So, district-wide, but predominantly, yes.
Any discussions or a motion on that?
So there's no discussion. I'll make a motion to approve the contract for present learning.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up is our psychologist contract approval. I believe
Yes.
this is another,
Yep, this is just another one of those contracts. Cheryl Doe, our special education director, is recommending that we approve this contract. This person provides educational evaluations for our special education students as required by state and federal law.
any discussion on this contract or questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So I haven't seen any contracts. So I don't know what that contract looks like. I only see the memo. I don't actually see the contract.
Yeah, just scroll down.
Oh, on those fees, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Oh, I did read this. Okay, I'm sorry. I did see.
It's all, no good decisions. are made after- Okay, so any other discussion or questions on this contract? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the psychic evaluation or whatever it is contract. I'm psychologist contract.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Sorry. The next, yes, the seismic grant. Thank you. Mr.
Yes,
Gallagher?
Madam Chair. I attached the press release from Business Oregon that indicates we did not receive an award for the seismic grant this spring. This was the second attempt at trying to get this grant. I know it's very competitive, but when I'm asking the board to approve tonight, would allow me to reissue our request for proposals, our RFP for a new experienced seismic grant engineering firm to re-prepare and submit for the next round of grant applications. I've worked with specific organizations in the past that really specialize in attaining seismic grants. And I think there's only been once that I have not received a seismic grant. I've received multiple ones of these. And so I actually talked to Scott Marshall about this because it was actually his outfit that submitted this application for 2 years in a row. And he actually agrees. He says, yeah, you probably need to return to the experts on this one. So you know, it's gonna cost us a little bit of money, but it's also $2.5 million grant. That I would think it'd be worth us trying to pursue, because we definitely need some seismic upgrades.
So what is, I'm sorry,
Go ahead. I was just gonna ask probably the same thing you.
what is the cost of this?
That's what we put out the RFP and then they bid, just like Andy was talking about getting subcontractors. And I'll definitely call those engineers that I've worked with in the past and ask them to put in a bid. So it's a competitive process, and then we would actually select from the bids and award an engineer to come in and redo the analysis and re-put together the grant application for us. So I don't know exactly what the cost would be, but we can consider that at that time.
So today is just putting the RFP out.
Today is
It's
just
not.
putting the RFP out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion on that? Is there a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to give Mr. Gallagher permission to request RFP for the seismic grant.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question here. Do we read each of these policies in the first reading?
No.
Okay,
no,
wonderful.
No.
Um,
No.
we
You
have,
want to be here forever.
we have a total of 5 personnel policies that need to be under the first reading review at this time. As far as I understand, this is to support our HR reset prior to staff going back into the school in August. Is that correct? Mr.
That is
Gallagher?
correct. These were policies that were identified by our HR consultant, Chris Para. And she said, we have to get these approved sooner than later. We cannot wait for the policy revision project. Because we're trying to move forward with this as soon as we can. We need all these definitions updated. We currently have these policies on the book, but they're outdated. They're not in accordance with state and federal law. And so these came from OSBA, and I went through them and made my comments, and there are certain sections that I'm recommending the board decide on. And if there are any bracketed areas, you can make those decisions, and you can see my recommendations in the memo. Tonight, you're just simply approving the first reading, which does not approve the policies. We'll bring them back in August for the second reading, and that's when you would do final approval, unless there's something that pops up that you feel you need more information beyond.
I haven't asked, and I don't know if anybody else on the board feels this way. Could I get these in like a Word document rather than a PDF file that has all of them in one, so I can flip through them differently? Is that possible?
They don't come to us in a Word document. They come to us as PDFs, don't they, Shirley?
I think they might be in the I can.
Could you email us the PDF?
I have to look and see if
Out-
I'm saying I don't remember because I never go.
Well, I'm just thinking maybe if you could send them outside of board books, then we can
Yeah.
open them individually. That would be helpful for
I'll-
me. I'm not sure if that'd be helpful for anybody else.
It was helpful for me just to have them on paper.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
It didn't take very long to read through them and go back and reference to the other ones when they were on paper. I just got these today. That's my
Um,
suggestion.
I'm open to any of the ways anybody needs to see them. To
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that for you.
Any other questions on these policies at this time?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the first reading of the policies.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Alright. That takes us through our action items. Board business. We have to, oh, go ahead. Mr.
So,
Gallagher.
Madam Chair, we have the school board training retreat, July 19th and 20th. That's next week from 5 to 9 p.m. Vincent Adams will be here. And I don't know about you guys, but every time I saw Vincent at the OSBA conference, he was just spectacular. I think we're very blessed to have him. Also, there's a board chair cafe, July 13th at 12 o'clock p.m. So Restine, that might be something you'd be interested in, but really anybody can participate. And then you have a flyer there of the OSBA Legislative Roadshow that I was kind of alluding to earlier. And it includes a lot of the hot topics that we went to at the summer conference, but also talks about the Legislative Policy Committee and the advocacy, and that just more information they can get on the OSBA Legislative Roadshow. So that's something I think the board really needs to pay attention to, because legislative is a board role, and OSBA does represent us, as well as, you know, as a board or even individually, you could be calling our local representation, you know, when they're in session on certain topics, and just be, you know, advocacy for our schools.
Any questions on that?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I just asked it, or do you have any questions?
Nope.
All
Oh,
right.
I do have one question. We are here 5 to 9, and we had discussed doing meals for, you know.
Oh.
Are we gonna do that still? I'm perfectly happy to do an entree if anybody wants to do anything side.
Would you
Can
like
you
to collaborate?
suggest sides?
Yeah.
Whatever you.
Yeah, because I'm happy to.
I'm happy to make a big salad for both the nights. It's just fine.
I don't have any idea what I'm gonna make yet, but I'm happy to do it.
Depends on the temperature.
There you go.
All right.
And if anybody has any suggestions that they would like, I'm happy to do that. We just have to remember I'm allergic to tomatoes and it can't have anything to do with that.
Got it.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Or
I'm just gonna go to the
peanuts.
hospital and I'll just
Oh,
hang out there.
let's not do that.
No.
Let's not do
do that.
peanuts either, please.
Okay, no
Or
peanuts.
peanuts oils.
And because Chef Salad's made one specifically for you, what's the name of it?
Oh.
Because it's no peanuts.
Yeah, I went to the hospital last time, 3 days,
Mm.
3 days.
Really, you're that
Mhm.
allergic to 'em?
They hit me with an EpiPen 4 times.
Wow.
So we're not doing that.
Ketchup? Can't eat
Nothing.
ketchup? Nothing?
No red, nothing.
Wow.
Not even tomatillos, the green tomatoes. No, those are even worse.
Oh, boy.
So if you guys want to do away with me.
No, no.
I'm tired
No,
of my
we don't wanna
bump and
do that.
gums. We're good to go.
All right. Any other
Killing her
questions?
over there. Look at her.
Any other questions or comments on board business besides tomato allergy?
Nope, good to go. If anybody has any ideas or suggestions for dinner, I am happy to do it both days. If you guys want to bring sides, I will be happy. Just shoot me a text, whatever you guys want to suggest, and I'll make it.
Alrighty. Next up is our personnel consent agenda. We have 3 new hires and I thought we had 2 resignations.
One was classified, and then by board policy, I do all the classified stuff.
Outstanding. So we have 3 new hires and 1 resignation. Does anybody want to pull these for discussion?
I just don't see, didn't we have an opening for first grade? I don't.
Still working on it.
Okay,
We just had another interview a couple days ago, and we're still working on attracting some applications.
okay. That was my only question.
Okay, that leads to another question. Have you identified a contingency plan if we don't have a hire before for the start of school?
I don't think that should be a concern.
Okay,
It's not an option.
If we get closer, there will be a contingency plan.
outstanding, wonderful, as long as it's on your radar.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
A second,
Oh, go ahead, Linda.
Linda seconds, all in favor?
sorry.
Aye. Okay,
I know.
okay, so did I skip something? Nope. Okay, so key dates, upcoming dates, we have, but you want to talk through the in-service and, or do you want to
Yes,
talk through
yes.
all of them?
We'll be getting you more of a detailed schedule on our teacher in service. The cabinet and I kind of outlined what it's going to look like during our retreat, but there's going to be more definitions. They'll, on August 16th, we'll start with a breakfast at 7:30 for all the staff. And I would certainly would be inviting the board to join us. 8 o'clock, I start off with a welcome speech, and I'm not going to take a whole lot of time, but there'll be some key people that we'll want to introduce that are new to the district. Also, each principal and director will have some time to just, say hi, and we just hired so-and-so and looking forward to this, and, some information for everybody. And then the board doesn't have to stay for very long. You could probably be out of there by 8:30 or 8:45, or unless you want to stay. But then we're going to start some in-service training for the staff, and that we're outlining, including some first aid training and CPR training and, things of that nature. And then the 17th, we'll be breaking into different groups, like the high school group, elementary group, special ed groups, things of that nature, and they'll be doing some specific training there. And then on the 19th is a teacher workday. And then on the 22nd, it's a first day for students, and Labor Day on September 5th. We're excited about the August kickoff, and it's gonna be right around the corner. It's going fast.
Outstanding.
And hopefully we'll have a kid from Belgium join us.
Oh, okay,
You hosting?
Mhm.
okay.
I'm really excited. He's 17 and he's very athletic and very good grades. And
Good.
so we're through all the process. And
He's a
so
senior.
he's a senior and I'm really excited.
Cool,
Mhm.
cool, excellent. It'll be
Yeah.
fun. That's always a neat thing.
I
for
don't
the
know
kids.
that part yet. I've only been told just this much, but we're in compliance, so we're all done. And I should be able to meet him like Monday, I think.
Oh,
So we've got all the paperwork done. I'm
Yeah.
just.
neat.
Outstanding.
That'd be great.
Mhm.
All right, so our next meeting dates, as mentioned, July 19th and 20th are board workshops from 5 PM to 9 PM. Those are open to the public to join us. There will be an agenda sent out prior. We do not have public comment during our board workshops. And then our next regular board meeting is August 11th at 7 PM currently. And at this time, we are going to break into executive session under ORS 192.6602H to consult with counsel concerning legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation at 9:23.